Cool. So, yeah, I'm going to talk about WordPress and how WordPress has grown up. Hopefully this will last about half an hour, but I can do a question and answer thing forever if I need to. So, I'm Mike Little, I've introduced already, so I'm a WordPress co-founder. I class myself as a WordPress specialist. I do 100% WordPress these days. If you need me, that's my personal site, that's my Twitter, that's my company site. So I'm going to start off a little bit about WordPress history. So WordPress started actually as a fork of a project called B2/CafeLog. Does anybody remember that website with that image on it? No? Oh, I'm too young. But that was a piece of software that was used for blogging. Small community around, about 2,000 regular users. And the guy behind it disappeared from the net. I mean, literally disappeared, hadn't been around for weeks. People who knew him personally couldn't get in touch with him on his phone and things like that. Turns out in the end, nothing mysterious, but he'd been made redundant. He had to get his phone back in. I think he'd even gone like living back with his parents and they didn't have internet type of thing. But the real world intruded. In the meantime, a chap called Matt Mullenweg over in the States speculated about what he was going to do about the fact that this software was not being updated, there were no bugs, so there were security issues. Even this domain, cafelog.com, was coming up for renewal. So he posted a blog post, and I commented on that and said, if you're serious about forking V2, count me in. I find out later, I mean literally just earlier this year, I discovered that actually I was the only person that responded to that blog post for more than a year. But that comment literally started what became WordPress. So it was conceived, that was January 2003, a long time ago now, and we got our first release out in May 2003. A friend of Matt's came up with the name WordPress. We fixed the bugs, we fixed security issues, and we added features. And released what was 0.7, carrying on from 0.63, I think was the last V2 version, in May 2003. Earlier this year, we celebrated, therefore, the 10th anniversary of that first release, which is just astonishing. 10 years is an astonishing amount of time for something that was just a bit of a hobby thing. And in that time, there's been 20 major releases. 0.7 the first one, and the current is 3.6, and there's a huge amount of things that have happened at that time. Some of the highlights along the way, 2004 version 1.2 included plugins for the first time. I should ask, who has used WordPress here? Oh, good, that's all right. You do know what I'm talking about, and that's good. 2005 version 1.5 included pages and themes, so plugins came before themes, which some of you might not remember. 2007, 2.1 included widgets, which are really, really clever, make a big difference in using WordPress. 2010 version 3 merged WordPress MU, the multi-user version of WordPress, which lots of people don't particularly care about, don't particularly know about, but it's actually quite a significant change and enabled certain things that were different. But WordPress is huge. From those humble beginnings, 2,000 people active users of V2. Just as an example, WordPress 3.5, the WordPress.org site has a download counter. And they reset it every time there's a major release. So 3.5 was the previous major release. There were 21 million downloads of that version. The current one, which came out second week of August, I think, 3.6, there's already been 8 million downloads. Currently, Automatic estimates about 70 million WordPress sites. That screenshot was taken last night. Oh, really, I was a bit small, actually. Yes, 70 million WordPress sites, and that's just WordPress installations. That doesn't include ones that have multiple sites on them using WordPress's multi-site capability. It doesn't include things like WP Edu, which is a WordPress multi-site that has over 1 million sites on it. That just counts as one. WordPress.com itself, technically, with its 35 million sites, is actually one WordPress installation, but they do count that as 35 million or whatever the numbers are now. 19.9% of the top 10 million websites use WordPress. That is 1 in 5 sites on the web is served from WordPress. That's an astonishing figure for somebody that started as a hobby 10 years ago. And really, yeah, the top 10 million most popular sites is the whole internet. Honestly, the rest of it's just nothing. And as a content management system, that's a 58% market share. So all the others, and we're not just talking open source, we're talking paid, we're talking, what's that horrible Microsoft thing? Sharing the name? Point. We're talking SharePoint, we're talking Joomla, Drupal, all those together do not add up to, clearly, the 58% that WordPress owns of that market. And a statistic that's a year or more old now, but of all the domains registered in the US that have a site put on them, 22% have put WordPress on them, which again is just an astonishing figure. And 52%, well actually just 52, of the top 100 blogs, that's the 100 most popular blogs on the whole internet, 52 of them now use WordPress, which again is just astonishing figures. And it's not bad for something to give away for free. One of the reasons that WordPress is so big and so successful is the fact that actually it's licensed under the GNU GPL, the GNU General Public License, which is not quite the same as open source. They're very similar, but there are certain things about the GPL and other free licenses that are a little bit different. So the GPL is, it uses a thing called copyleft, which is a play on words of copyright, but it's a legal hack. It uses the copyright law to give users freedoms in exchange for developers' rights. Something that I believe passionately in then, and I still believe in now. It gives 4 freedoms, and I'll whiz through them really, really quick. Freedom to run the program for any purpose, so you can't say you're not allowed to use it for bad things, you're not allowed to use it for... There used to be a time when free programs used to say you can't use it for the military because we don't like the military, so we can't use the free program, we've got to pay for it. Or you can't use it for business because we think everything should be free. The GPL doesn't have any of those restrictions. You genuinely should be free to use it for any purpose. The freedom to study how the program works, that means that you can figure out how it works, you can learn from it, you can change it so that it can do what you need to do, you can modify it in any way. Of course, you need the access to the source codes are a pre-requirement of that. The freedom to distribute copies so you can help your neighbour, you can give it away to people. You can charge people for it as well, actually, which I'll talk about later, but you must be free to give it away to somebody. You can't have any restrictions on that. And the freedom to distribute copies of your modified version. Some free software won't let you distribute modified copies. And again, that means that the improvements that you might make as a superstar coder, that some of you out there I'm sure are, can't be distributed to other people. It's very important. And it's something that not a lot of developers generally get their heads around. It's about users' freedoms. And it's one of the reasons why WordPress is so successful. So it's free as in freedom, not free as in free pizza, or free beer is the other phrase. So it is, as I mentioned, perfectly okay to sell GPL software, to make money from GPL software. Nothing wrong with that, as long as you don't take away those users' freedoms. So, making money, how do you make money from WordPress? I'm sure some of you in the room already know. You can sell themes, or better is to sell support and updates of those themes. You can sell plugins, you can sell services, you can sell hosting, development, training. I do some of those things. You can write books. There are all kinds of things that you can do to make money from WordPress or any open source project. And some people are very, very successful at it. There's an estimate that this is now a multi-billion-dollar industry around WordPress. Again, astonishing figures. The big boys, Automatic, yeah, they're the company behind WordPress.com. Matt Mullenweg's company, the other co-founder with me. They do VIP WordPress hosting service for people like Wall Street Journal, NASA, and so on. They have a lot of other stuff around that as well, some of it free, some of it paid. Started in 2005, tail end of 2005, with about 170, 180 employees. Turnover, apparently, it's hard to find the figures, $45 to $60 million a year turnover. and they just recently raised $50 million by selling literally a few shares from some of the early employees. I just don't want to know what those numbers are. Wuthering, provider of themes and plugins, 28 employees, turning over $2 to $4 million a year. Some of these estimates are real estimates that I made up based on quoted customer figures and the prices to buy their stuff or to subscribe to their services and so on. So they are made up figures. But they're not too far out. Rocket Genius, they just have one WordPress plugin with a few add-ons, but 5 to 10 employees, $3 to $4 million they're turning over. WP Engine, they do WordPress hosting, $1 to $2 million. They've just received $1.2 million funding from Automatic, as it happens. 45 employees they've got. Envato, they're a marketplace. You've heard of ThemeForest, I'm sure, and lots of other equivalents, WP Toots and things like that. They do more than WordPress stuff, but WordPress is their main thing. Their turnover is only about $1 million a year because they just skim a bit off the top of all those sales. But apparently one of their sellers has just surpassed $1 million worth of products. That's a WordPress theme and plugin author selling his stuff on ThemeForest, whatever the plugin thing's called, has just turned over $1 million. Again, astonishing figures. And then lots of the little people, tens of thousands of freelancers, 44,000 registered WordPress developers on Elance alone. Lots of small design companies, SEO and marketing companies, web development companies, little companies like me, I'm only one man really, and all have contributed to this economy, all people making things out of WordPress. It really has grown up because it's supporting, WordPress is supporting this kind of economy. Some major users, I've mentioned some of them already, but General Motors, UPS, eBay, Sony, very American this, GigaOM, TechCrunch, so some technology places there. Famous blogs, Boing Boing, I don't know how many millions of users a day that they have, Mashable, places like that. Music, Rolling Stones, Jay-Z, you should check out Jay-Z's site, it's really interesting use of WordPress. Katy Perry, Usain Bolt, people like that. The news, the media, really, really hot on WordPress. New York Times, CNN, Forbes, Reuters, Maclean's in this country, The Telegraph, Metro just converted everything. All their web properties are now WordPress, really, really huge. Stephen Fry, very, very popular blog. Who else we've got? Top Gear, amazing because the BBC generally tend to use in-house software for everything, and they do for all their main blogs, but these guys managed to get themselves a WordPress blog. They're the only ones that I know of on the BBC that are using WordPress, but, have I got it on here? Yeah, BBC America use WordPress for all their properties, and they have a lot of properties, and they use WordPress for all that, so that's good. Rolling Stones I talked about before, this relaunch for the 50th anniversary, absolutely huge. A couple of mates of mine helped build that site, really, really good. So there's just loads of big people using it, I'm sure there's many, many more. And it's not just your ordinary sites as well. So some of these sites are they're standard websites, even if they're well designed, they're very sophisticated. They certainly have huge amounts of visitors, huge amounts of content on some of them, especially the newspaper ones. But also I wanted to talk about the fact that WordPress goes beyond websites. So one of the things that can take WordPress beyond just an ordinary website is a thing called BuddyPress, social networking plugin. Literally, WordPress is famous for its 5-minute install. So 5 minutes after you've installed WordPress, you can spend another 2 minutes installing BuddyPress, and you've got yourself a social network with all the kinds of things that you expect from a social network. Why would you want to have your own social network when there's the Facebooks and all the rest of it out there? One of the things is that you can have a private one, and one in particular that really drove it home to me is one called downsyndrome.com that has a Facebook-like experience for sufferers of Down syndrome, parents and carers, but which is completely private. It's not something those people could do on Facebook. It really wouldn't work. But they have that full experience in a private, safe environment. And there are loads of other examples of that, but also WordPress is used for some quite commercial things as well. Gigaon, that I talked about before, is a subscription network, technology news network, discussion forums and things like that, all built on WordPress and BuddyPress. That makes a fortune for the owners of that. E-commerce, WordPress is really, really good for e-commerce. Didn't used to be, I have to admit, but it's got a lot better, and in particular, WooCommerce from Wuthering, as I talked about before, they do really, really well with their WooCommerce plugin. I don't know why I chose this site. It's one that they've showcased on their site. It's in South African health food chain that's just absolutely huge in South Africa, but they run all their site and their e-shop on WordPress and WooCommerce. Again, just some incredible things. Here's a really, really interesting one. There's a TV show in the States from AMC, I'm afraid I've not heard of them, called The Walking Dead. Apparently it's very successful. They're about to return for the 4th season. It's all about zombies and survivors and really interesting stuff. But one of the things that they have is an interactive story sync that works on your iPad initially, but now works, as they say, now available on Android and iPhone. And it's an interactive app that works along with the program as you're watching it. I'm actually going to switch over to the site so I can show you what type of things, if I can get this to click right. I'll just move through to here. So this is one from the first episode of the 3rd season. And it has, well, 36 items of synced content. And it does things like they run polls while you're watching the program. They talk about things, so spoilers, I'm sorry, if you've not seen this yet, apparently Laurie's pregnant. Just loads of things. Adverts, of course, because they're going to make money from this. But background information about the graphic design. The series is based on a comic book series, so they give you this stuff as they're going through actually broadcasting the site. Loads of stuff, really, really interesting. And I believe that they're probably taking some of this feedback and feeding it back into the writers of the stories. Just incredible stuff. And that's actually all run on WordPress. It's just a WordPress site. If I just quickly refresh this. If I refresh this, you might just see a counter, next update in. That's gone because it's not being broadcast now, but that was live when the show was being broadcast. So all this stuff didn't suddenly appear. It came as the story unfolded on your screen. You got asked questions about what's happening on the screen. Really, really clever use, very interactive, worked really well, been very, very popular. Let me switch back to there, go back to full screen here. And it's so popular that, if I can get focus again, it's been nominated for an Emmy. So this is an app-based, or website that's based on an app, or been turned into an app that's actually been nominated for an Emmy in the Outstanding Interactive Program category, you know, the popular one. And it's up against things like Game of Thrones and a few other things, but it's a WordPress site that's been nominated for an Emmy. I think that's pretty impressive. Here's one that I'm involved with. I built this. It's called I'm a Scientist. I'll say I built this in conjunction with my client, who are the clever people. I'm a Scientist, Get Me Out of Here. It's a science engagement event that runs as part of science lessons in school. So it runs for 2 weeks at a time, and you get a bunch of scientists, as you can see at the top there, sign up. They create themselves profiles. The kids in their science lessons get to sign up on the site, ask them questions about what they do, what science is like, various different things. You can see some of the questions that they get asked, and it's some of it's sciencey, some of it's not, some of it's silly, but it's really, really good. And then they also get to interact with these scientists in real time, doing real-time chat, MSN-style real-time chat, which is incredibly, incredibly popular. After the first week of this back and forth, They then get to start voting on these scientists, and one per day gets kicked out until they're left with just the winner, who wins £500 to promote science in any way that they see fit. The feedback from this is actually sponsored by, or sponsored in the main by Wellcome Trust. The feedback from this for kids who have changed their attitudes about science and scientists, who some of them actually say, I'm really interested in a science career now. Finding out that scientists aren't scary-haired men in white coats. It's just incredible. The teachers and also the scientists get good stuff out of this, because one of the things that we're looking at doing is analysing the scientists' answers from the beginning of the event to the end of the event to see if they get better at portraying science to lay people. But it's all based on WordPress, and it's an incredible thing. It's been running for quite a few years now. One of the interesting statistics from the first big one we ran, which was 20 zones, 5 scientists in each zone, 20 to 40 schools in each zone, so huge amounts. In the 2 weeks that the event ran, we generated 250,000 pages of content in 2 weeks. It's incredible, and it's all still there as well. If you go look at that site and start reading those questions, you're going to be there for hours. It's amazing the stuff that goes on that site. Here's another one. Why MVP? MVP stands for Moderate to Vigorous Physical Activity, apparently. It's YMCA in New York. I built this gamified youth health program all around WordPress. They use booths, as you can see here. The kids have NFC, I think, or maybe it's RFID membership cards. They log into these things when they come to the gym or come to the activity to come and play sports. It's gamified, so they get rewards and badges as they do more and more things. They're encouraged to share it and so on. It's still running as a beta at the moment, but it's all built on WordPress. Again, absolutely incredible for not just a website. Really, really interactive, really, really good. Interesting stuff. And loads of other stuff as well. WordPress file system. Somebody created a file system based on the WordPress site. So for those who are very geeky, it uses Fuse, which is an interface between your file system, between your OS and something external, and basically exposes the contents of a WordPress site into your filing system. Why? I have no idea, but it's possible to do it with WordPress. Read-only at the moment, apparently is going to try and make it read-write, so you could create a file, drop it into a certain directory, and it would become a post on your site. Okay, weird. Interactive game. This one, Bendy Words, and I can supply these slides and these links afterwards, is one that was done as a bit of fun using WordPress's then new custom post types to create an interactive game, a bit like Snake, but with letters, and one that actually stores the game moves so games can be replayed and things like that. And I'm just thinking, oh, a few more steps and you could turn that into a chess engine. But it's all based on WordPress. There is another game-related thing going on in WordPress, but I can't find any concrete details. But the people who wrote the first that I'm aware of, WP Commerce, first e-commerce plugin for WordPress, company in New Zealand, apparently they are building a game engine, or have built a game engine based on WordPress. There's a Flash front end, but all the content, all the maps and all the stuff is all done in WordPress, and I can't find any technical details or any examples of it, but it's something that's being done. Anthologize is an add-on to WordPress that turns your WordPress site into a book publishing system. You create posts, you create various different things, and at the end of it, it can spit out the whole contents of your site as a PDF, organized chapters and all the rest of it. WP Manage, anybody use WP Manage? It's a WordPress site management app. So if you've got more than 1 or 2 WordPress sites to manage, you don't have to log into each one. You log into WP Manage, you get a control panel, you can control all your WordPress apps, update the plugins, various different things, add users, all kinds of stuff. It's a WordPress app itself. It actually runs on WordPress, which is quite meta. But really, really interesting stuff. So very, very quickly, I've run through, hopefully, some interesting things about WordPress. Demonstrated that WordPress is much more than a blogging system, even more than a CMS system now. People are writing apps on top of it. and hopefully illustrate that it really has grown up from what it started with. And that's me, and I'm ready to take any questions. If you've got any questions. Anybody got any questions? No. Okay, yeah.
So is there any reason that you didn't go and work for Automatic, or wouldn't have been?
I kind of dropped out of full-time, well not full-time, but dropped out of working with WordPress just before it got big at that time. For my own real-world reasons. Tail end of 2005 was pretty much when I stopped working with that, which was actually just when Automatic started, but before it got big, before he got his $1 million of investment. So yeah, it was just coincidence, and then it took me quite a while longer before I realised that it had grown as big as it had, and that actually I should be doing something with it, and I quit my day job and started working in WordPress, which was just over 4.5 years ago. Anybody else? Any questions? If you could, yeah, if you could put in an Apache or Nginx on Raspberry Pi, yeah, absolutely, yeah. In fact, isn't that something that's, oh, there's certainly a web environment just been released for Raspberry Pi, really. I think somebody mentioned it earlier today. So yeah, you could throw. Okay, yeah. So absolutely, you can run it on whatever you need. Smartwatch, yeah. Anybody else? No? Okay, then I'm done.